Hello there, a very good evening and a very warm welcome to the news live on Channel I. I'm Nitya Sarakchandra.
A very good evening indeed. I'm Jalud Bonzo and we begin with the headlines of tonight's news.
The president claims the people had to suffer due to previous leaders' arbitrary actions, dragging the country into an economic crisis. The Prime Minister says a large-scale program was launched to make Sri Lanka as a geographical economic hub in the Indian Ocean. The present government has been able to safeguard the entitlement of the land given outright to foreign companies in the Colombo Port City project. A chief invigilator has been removed from his examination duties due to late attendance today. The death toll in the floods across India and Nepal has risen to over 250.
Now for the news in detail. President Maithripala Sirisena claims that the people had to experience the results of the previous government's arbitrary actions, dragging the country into an economic crisis. He told the inauguration ceremony of the Sri Lanka Economic Summit in Colombo today that those who are responsible for pushing the country into an economic abyss are walking along the road talking of fairy tales at local political stages at present.
The two-day economic summit is being conducted under the theme of Focus, Act, Deliver. It is organized by the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce for the 17th time in succession. Attention of the participants are being focused on finding solutions and delivering results without confining to mere words going beyond the issues. Addressing the inauguration ceremony, the President emphasized the need of taking prompt action, understanding the existing economic crisis in the country by politicians, state officials and the people. He added that subsidies being granted by the government to the people would not be curtailed whatsoever. He added that anyone can talk of fairy tales in political stages and walk along the road chanting slogans against the government. The people had to suffer as a result of serious wrongdoings committed to the economy during the past few decades. The state finance management and monetary discipline should be maintained without pushing the people into difficulties. The President said, adding that the present government will take every possible step to improve the living standard of the common public. The membership of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce contributing their share to strengthen the economy should be given more assistance towards this end by the government. The government is taxing the known people to raise the revenue. Only 45,000 tax files are with the Inland Revenue Department. The department is running after those persons. People who are not paying taxes are being allowed to enjoy tax-free benefits. Businessmen were always complaining that the government should provide them more concessions to continue their activities, the President said. Finance Minister Ravi Karunanayake delivered the keynote address.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me just give you a brief reminding of what the past was. At a time when we took office, it was a situation where the revenues were insufficient to pay our debt servicing. In short, the capital and the interest was not paid by revenues of this country. You basically had a situation where the dwindling revenue against the GDP. In 2005, the revenue to GDP was around 17.4%, reduced drastically to 10.4% in 2014. Then to today, we have to take some contingent measures in order to ensure the macro situation is acceptable. So thereafter, we had to get down to getting the economy into proper perspective. In the same process, we were compelled, with the new government coming in, with certain policies that were spelled out and certain election promises that had to be kept. We have got to ensure revenues created to meet up with the expenditure that we were proposing. For year 2015 was the first time that you saw all expenditure that was proposed met within the year's revenue itself. There are some pundits that have been talking out of turn on many issues without knowing what the fundamentals are. And I guess the real situation needs to look at while going into the system. And today, we're happy to state that the first time in year 2015, the debt did not increase owing to the fact of expenditure being created. We were able to meet well within that area.
Central Bank Governor Dr. Indrajit Kumaraswamy had this to say on the country's economic situation.
I'm encouraged, even more encouraged by what I've heard this morning, because both His Excellency the President and the Honourable Finance Minister stated very clearly that they recognize that fiscal consolidation has to be of the highest priority. If you look back at the last 30 years, that has been the main source of instability in the system. So if we're able to crack that, we can create the kind of foundation that's necessary for the private sector to invest, create jobs, and thrive. So that was a big plus. So that's one part of the story. The second part of the story is that in the next few weeks, the Prime Minister is expected to set out his 5-year plan. So a combination of sound macroeconomic management, with fiscal consolidation having to be at the heart of it, and clear direction, which I am fairly confident will be set out by the Prime Minister. I think those of you in the private sector will have a framework which can encourage you to recalibrate your risk appetite and to commit yourself to investing in the future of this country in a much more aggressive way.
Well, the Kalani Punya Bhumi Puja religious ceremony took place at the Kalani Raja Mahavihara this evening. It was organized to invoke blessings on the country by the President in connection with the completion of 10,000 days in office. The Kalani Punya Bhumi Puja religious ceremony was held with the aim of invoking blessings to the country and the people by President Maithripala Sirisena. The chief priest of the Kalani Raja Mahavihara, the Venerable Professor Kolupite Mahinda Sangha Rakitithera officiated. The Venerable Kodapola Amarakithithera conducted the Bodhi Puja. Several ministers and MPs were among the large gathering of devotees that attended the religious ceremony.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe revealed that the government has launched a large-scale program aimed at making Sri Lanka as a geographical economic hub in the Indian Ocean, which was a long-term aspiration of the island nation. He made this revelation when he addressed the inaugural sessions of the 12th World Islamic Economic Conference in Indonesia. The Sri Lankan Premier pointed out that a national government comprising two main political parties in the country had been established not only for political stability but also for the country's economic stability. The 12th World Islamic Economic Conference was inaugurated this morning at the Seminar Center in Jakarta, Indonesia this morning. Over 2,500 delegates of more than 100 countries are attending the conference. The conference began under the patronage of the Indonesian President Joko Widodo. Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak, Tajikistan President Emomali Rahmon and the President of Guinea Republic Professor Alpha Conde were present. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe has been invited for the conference as a special guest. Indonesian President Widodo delivered the keynote address. In his address, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe focused attention on social justice in the face of global challenges such as religious extremism and international methodology to overcome challenges through equality in market economy. He also explained plans of strengthening relations with Islamic and other states while outlining Sri Lanka's future path.
I come here from a multi-religious, multi-ethnic island nation of Sri Lanka, where there has been coexistence and intermingling of the various sects and segments of religions of Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism and Islam for many centuries. What brought together this rich and diverse mixture of faith? It was trade, the historical process whereby communities and nations established bonds and augmented their collective prosperity. Thus we saw the early Arabic traders dominating trade across the Silk Route and traversing the cusp of the Indian Ocean until around the 16th century, when Western European merchants started competing with them for a share of the burgeoning East-West trading relationship. Similarly, An earlier historical development saw how the flow of goods overland and through the sea routes scalloping between China, India and Europe spread the teachings of the Buddha from Myanmar and the Srivijaya Empire to the furthest extremes of Northeast Asia. We can easily summarize that the spread of Buddhist and Islam religions across Asia, carried largely by traders and merchants, added significantly to the widespread practice of tolerance, compassion, charity, and interconnectedness among religions and societies and cultures in this vast region. My country, Sri Lanka, pioneered economic liberalization in South Asia in the 1970s. Even at present, Sri Lanka enjoys the highest ranking for economic freedoms in the region. Today, the national government consists of the country's two major political parties, headed by His Excellency President Maithripala Sirisena, is introducing the politics of convergence to consolidate democracy. This political initiative will bring about political stability and a bipartisan agreement to formulate a stable economic and political framework, an urgent need given decades of highly partisan and parochial politics. In this background, economic reforms in Sri Lanka received a fresh impetus. Sri Lanka has long been acknowledged as having the potential to become a geo-economic center in the Indian Ocean. With this mind, we are implementing the next round of macroeconomic structural reforms in conjunction with the ambitious program of infrastructure development.
Now, the present government has been able to safeguard the entitlement of the land which was to be handed over to foreign companies in accordance with the Colombo Port City plan of the previous regime. Co-Cabinet spokesman Minister Dr. Rajitha Senaratne told the weekly Cabinet news briefing in Colombo today an agreement was reached with the relevant company to provide the land under the 99-year lease. According to the agreement signed by the previous government in 2014, the Port City private company was to be given ownership of 20 hectares of land outright. A new agreement will be signed between the Ministry of Mega Police and Western Development, Urban Development Authority and the relevant company, replacing the previous agreement. Minister Rajitha Senaratne noted that necessary legal provisions will be made in the future to obtain the entitlement of the land. He added that this new land will be built by reclaiming the sea area near the Gulf-faced green. The ownership of the new land poses a problem. This is not included in the Colombo district plan and not even in Sri Lanka's land map. This land is not built by Sri Lanka. No one can stop the rise of casinos in this new land because there is no outright ownership. There was a loophole in the law. However, finally the company, through persuasion, agreed to hand over the ownership of this land to the government again. It is essential to issue a gazette notification stating that this land belongs to the Colombo district in Sri Lanka and that it is a part of the district. A decision was taken over to hand over the land to the Urban Development Authority and it'll enter into a 99-year lease agreement with the relevant company and hand over this plot of land over to them. The government has been able to solve a major problem and the cost for the present administration has been reduced by this agreement. Co-Cabinet spokesman Minister Rajitha Senaratne said that the fine should be paid by the government to the relevant company due to the delay in construction work of the Port City project have been waived off. He added that the total fines had been increased to 150 million rupees from the inception to date. It has been agreed to completely waive off the fines. Minister Andhra Priyadarshana noted that activities of repairing the damages caused to the people owing to flash floods, landslides and the Salava army camp blast are being carried out successfully. He said that 230 houses were completely damaged in flash floods in the Kegal district. The estimated cost to build 1,682 new houses in the region of 18.4 million rupees. The Cabinet of Ministers has given approval to the memorandum submitted to obtain this sum of money. An approval was given to allocate a sum of 1,179.8 million rupees to pay compensation for houses damaged in the Salava army camp blast. The government has granted a massive sum of money for the purpose. Co-cabinet spokesman Minister Gayantha Karunatilaka disclosed that the government has taken measures to store weapons and explosives belonging to the security divisions in less populated areas. He further noted that an ammunition dump is to be built at Oimadua in Anuradhapura to store explosives and weapons. The memorandum submitted by the President in his capacity as the Minister of Defence has been approved by the Cabinet of Ministers, he further noted.
And the World Bank approved $100 million credit from the International Development Association to support the economic reform program of the Sri Lankan government. World Bank announcing the financial aid said Sri Lanka has been making steady progress on economic reforms, with the government aiming to create 1 million new jobs through a reform package focused on improving the country's competitiveness, transparency and macroeconomic stability. A recent World Bank study, the Systematic Country Diagnostic, highlighted the need for Sri Lanka to move from a largely inward-looking and public sector-driven economy to one that is capable of unleashing the potential of the private sector, leading to post-conflict economic growth and creating more and better jobs for Sri Lankans. The Sri Lanka Competitiveness, Transparency and Fiscal Sustainability Development Policy Financing, which is only the second DPF to Sri Lanka in a decade, aims to support the government's reform agenda by reducing obstacles to private sector competitiveness, establishing transparent and well-managed public institutions, and improving fiscal sustainability.
And now for a look around Asia in 1 minute.
A tornado hit Linghua district of Gilan City in South China's Gongshi-Chuang Autonomous Region yesterday, injuring 11 people and damaging more than 70 cars at an auto trade market. The first female governor, Yuriko Koike of Tokyo, has started her new job at the Tokyo Metropolitan Government Office today after election victory in the weekend. The world's largest mosquito factory in southern China breeds millions of bacteria-infected insects per week in the fight against the spread of diseases such as dengue and Zika. Thai elephants helped boost awareness of the August 7th referendum by handing out leaflets to motorists in Ayutthaya province yesterday. The Chinese Army, Navy and Air Force held a series of real combat exercises recently to celebrate the Army Day, which held yesterday. An artillery brigade of People's Liberation Army held military exercises recently in King Tongxia City.
Continuing with more local stories now, various parties have responded to the statement made by the Prime Minister yesterday, revealing that former President Mahinda Rajapaksa has made an attempt to divide the Malvatta chapter. They noted that the Prime Minister's statement was the truth. The Prime Minister told a ceremony in Rambukana recently that the Rajapaksa regime has no right to talk about Buddhism, as it has committed a sin of dividing the Mahasangha, attempting to break the Malvatta chapter into two factions. He further noted that it has become one of the reasons to rally round major powers headed by the UMP to chase the Rajapaksa regime. Venerable Dambara Amilathera said that the National Bhikkhu Front has taken a decision to issue a Sangha declaration against the former president's anti-democratic rule, while urging the authorities to release General Sarath Fonseca, who was imprisoned during previous Mahinda Rajapaksa regime. This declaration was to issue at Sri Dalda Malgawa in Kandy following discussions with the Mahanayaka Theras of Malvatta Mahavihara and other members of the Mahasangha.
Now, the advanced GC level examinations began at 2,204 examination centres countrywide today. 315,605 candidates are sitting the examination. Of this, 240,991 are school candidates. Special operations rooms have been established, enabling candidates to lodge complaints regarding any injustice or irregularity caused to them. The national identity card or passport of the candidate has been made compulsory in order to sit for the examination. Apart from required stationery, keeping or using equipment such as smart wristwatches with special facilities have been completely prohibited. Commissioner General of Examinations WMNJ Pushpa Kumara said that if any candidate is found guilty of using mobile phones or any other electronic equipment, then he or she will not be allowed to sit for any examination of the department for the next 5 years. In addition, the examination department will seize the mobile phone or the electronic equipment. Monitoring teams have been appointed at the provincial and zonal levels to invigilate, ensuring that examination rules and regulations are not violated. The Chief Invigilator of Hall Number 1 at Hinagama Madhya Mahavidyalaya Kalani was removed from his duties due to late attendance today. This action has been taken place by the Commissioner General of Examinations on a tip-off. Candidates were given question papers and are late due to the late attendance of the Chief Invigilator. However, those candidates were given extra time till 12:30 p.m. to answer the question papers, which were scheduled to end at 11:30 a.m. today. A special operation room has been made active till the 27th of this month, enabling candidates to lodge complaints on any injustice or irregularity caused to them. Such complaints could be submitted by contacting telephone numbers 1911 or 011 278 4208 or 011 278 4537. The department further informed that outsiders who are involved in extending support for examination fraud would be apprehended under the Examination Act. The GC Advanced Level Examination, which will begin tomorrow, is to be continued till the 27th of this month.
And a program of cleaning the Mount Lavinia beach organized by the JICA volunteer officers was held today. 7 young male volunteer officers and 6 female officers of Japanese International Cooperation Agency in Okinawa spearheaded the campaign of cleaning the Mount Lavinia beach. This JICA team of officers will participate in similar programs at various places in Sri Lanka for 11 days. 12 members of the Mount Lavinia Girls High School Environment Committee, along with the school principal, also attended the Mount Lavinia beach cleaning program. Measures have been taken to create mutual understanding among the schoolgirls of Mount Lavinia Girls High School and the Japanese volunteer team. Sri Lanka's resident volunteer officers for JICA noted that this program has been organized to promote the friendship between the two countries, improving the connectivity between the children of Sri Lanka and Japanese children. The volunteers are assigned to the Dehiwala Mount Lavinia Municipal Council in order to support its environmental cleaning program. The strength of JICA's volunteers are their practical approach to problem solving and their grasp to local languages, which enables them to interactively communicate with the people in the area.
Sri Lanka people is very kind and warm. I think it is very good opportunity for us to have good relationships with foreigners. So I'm so glad to be here.
Sri Lanka is very beautiful country, and I feel very happy visiting Sri Lanka. My group, especially to take part this beach cleaning program, and it's my great pleasure.
Now, the Minister of Law and Order and Southern Development, Sagar Ratnayake, says the time has come for police officers to fulfill their duties without political interference. He pointed out that this will ensure the public an effective police service. The Minister was speaking at the launching ceremony of the official logo designed in connection with the 150th anniversary of Sri Lanka Police in Colombo today. The ceremony was held at the Colombo Crime Report Division's auditorium under the theme of A Journey of Excellence. IGP Pujit Jayasundara was present. Addressing the ceremony, Minister Sagar Ratnayake said that the politics in the police have come to an end. Today, MPs have no influence in the appointment of an OIC. This remains the responsibility of the Police Commission. However, the IGP and senior police officers have a responsibility of working in close collaboration with the Police Commission without any political interference. IGP Pujith Jayasundara noted that the people across Sri Lanka are making a powerful demand for an effective police service. This is a challenge that should be overcome in a systematic manner, as the responsibility of the police is to maintain law and order to ensure peace in the country. The chairman of the National Police Commission, Professor Cyril Hettige, Attorney General Jayantha Jayasuriya, Ministry Secretary Jagath P. Vijayveera, senior DIGs and several police officers were present.
The Silver Jubilee commemoration of Reverend Father Lalit Piris, in charge of Moratuwa Mission, was held at Pilapitia Church in Kalania. Reverend Lalit Piris entered the priesthood on the 27th of July 1991. He served as the Reverend Father in charge of the Moratuwa Mission. Several benevolent activities, including the distribution of dry ration parcels among the poorest of the poor, was held at Pilapitia in Kalania in addition to the 25th anniversary commemorations. The Chief Priest of Kalania Rajamavihara, Professor Kollupitiya Mahinda Sangarakita Thera, Auxiliary Bishop Emmanuel Pereira, Chief Opposition Whip of the Western Provincial Council U. George Pereira, and former Pradesh Sabha member Milroy Pereira were among those present.
Now in your stock update this evening, the All Shares Price Index closed at 6,503.30 points, increased by 92.88 points. In the S&P SL 20 Index closed at 3,529.67 points, also increased by 90.27 points at the end of trading in the Colombo Stock Exchange today. Turnover was over 1,949 rupees.
Welcome back, and on foreign stories, floods across India over the past 3 weeks have killed 152 people and displaced millions. 34 people had died and 1.1 million displaced in the northeastern state of Assam alone. Efforts are also underway to rescue animals from the state's Kazringa National Park, which is one of the last habitats of the rare one-horned rhino. Wildlife officials said 80% of the park is underwater and over 100 animals, including 17 rhinos, have died. Floods have also damaged large tracts of agricultural land and infrastructure in the northern states of Bihar and Himachal Pradesh, as well as the West Bengal state in the east. The PTI news agency said hundreds of people have stranded along the highways leading to Manali, a tourist resort in Himachal Pradesh. India's meteorological department has said that heavy rains are likely to continue.
And now some international news in brief.
Pregnant women have been warned not to travel to a Zika-affected part of Miami after another 10 cases were identified. The victims were probably infected by local mosquitoes in the Wynwood area. Pregnant women who had been in the zone since 15 June were urged to get tested, while those planning a baby should wait 8 weeks after leaving the area. Venezuela's National Election Council has announced its approval of the first step in an opposition campaign to recall President Nicolas Maduro. It said the opposition had succeeded in gathering 1% of voter signatures in all 24 of Venezuela's states. The move is the first part of the opposition's push for an early end to President Maduro's term in office. In a further twist, the Supreme Court suspended opposition activity in the country's parliament. Richard Branson's space company Virgin Galactic has been granted an operating license to fly its passenger rocket ship with the world's first paying space tourist aboard once final safety tests are completed, the Federal Aviation Administration said yesterday. The unprecedented license covers all operations of Virgin Galactic's 6-passenger, 2-pilot spaceship, 2-vehicle, including commercial passenger service. One of the last known groups of woolly mammoths died out because of a lack of drinking water, scientists believe. The Ice Age beasts were living on a remote island off the coast of Alaska, and scientists have dated their demise to about 5,600 years ago. They believe that a warming climate caused lakes to become shallower, leaving the animals unable to quench their thirst. Most of the world's woolly mammoths had died out by about 10,500 years ago. The musical Cats returned to Broadway for the first time in 16 years last Sunday. After opening on the West End in 1981, the musical came across the Atlantic in 1982 and went through 7,485 performances in 18 years before closing in 2000. Since its world premiere, Cats has been presented in over 30 countries and has been translated into 15 languages. DC Comics' band of anti-heroes, dubbed the Suicide Squad, is ready to hit the big screen. The film, which sees a number of imprisoned villains grouped together to form a Black Ops team, stars Hollywood actors Will Smith, Jared Leto, Margot Robbie, Viola Davis, as well as model Cara Delevingne. The film was directed by David Ayer, who the cast called the real leader of the bunch. Suicide Squad will be released in US theaters on August 5th.
They're bad guys. Worst of the worst.
And in sports news, Sri Lanka recorded its first victory, beating Japan today in the Asian netball tournament being held in Thailand. Sri Lanka were leading 36 points to 5 at half-time. They scored 31 more points in the second half, beating Japan by 67 points to 14. Hong Kong beat Maldives by 71 points to 8 in an A-group match. Thailand beat Chinese Taipei by 40 points to 21 in another A-group match. Malaysia emerged victorious, beating Brunei by 63 points to 17 in a B-group match.
Now, in your weather update this evening, the Met Department says that strong winds at times can be expected over the country, particularly over the central hills. Mainly fair weather will prevail over most parts of the island. However, a few showers may occur in the western Sabaragamu's central and northwestern provinces and in the Galle district.
And that's it for tonight's news. To watch us tomorrow at the very same time. Good night.
Good night.